The palace was alive with light and music. Crystal chandeliers floated in the air, casting rainbow reflections on the polished floors. Servants hurried quietly, carrying trays of golden food. Guests from across the galaxy had gathered. All eyes were on Princess, the alien princess of. Her skin shimmered with a pale blue glow, and her eyes were like liquid silver. She moved gracefully, every gesture perfect, every smile polished. Yet no one noticed the flicker of pain in her eyes. The human guard, Captain Daniel, noticed. He stood near the grand staircase, silent and calm. He had served for 2 years. He had fought off assassins, navigated political riots, and protected her from danger he could not even name. And now, something worse than any blade or blaster threatened her. It began with a tremor in her hand, a soft tremor that most would dismiss. Lifted her chalice to her lips, but her hand wavered. A small gasp slipped from her lips. Panic did not happen instantly. At first, it was just whispers. "Princess, is she unwell? Maybe it's the heat of the lights." Guests shuffled nervously. Courtiers whispered behind gloved hands. Then she fell. A soft, almost elegant stumble at first. Then her knees buckled. Silver light spilled from her eyes, brighter than anyone had ever seen. She hit the floor with a sound that echoed through the marble halls. Glass shattered, trays tumbled, and the music stopped. Screams erupted. Nobles backed away. Servants tripped over one another, screaming for help. Some ran for medics, others for security. The palace, a place of order and control, became chaos in seconds. But Daniel did not move hastily. He did not panic. He ran, but he ran with purpose. His boots barely touched the floor as he closed the distance to. The crowd parted instinctively when they saw him. Humans were rare here, and humans were strong, but Daniel's presence carried authority. He knelt beside the princess, her eyes fluttered, trying to focus. Her breathing was shallow, rapid, uneven. Something had poisoned her, or worse. He did not have time to think, only to act. "Stay with me," he said. His voice was calm but firm. It was the voice of someone who had faced death and never lost. "I've got you." Her lips trembled and she whispered, almost a plea, "Daniel, why is this happening?" He swallowed the lump in his throat. "I don't know, but I will not let you fall. Not now, not ever." A servant approached, shaking. "Captain, we need." "Clear the area," Daniel snapped. His eyes burned with urgency. The crowd stepped back. Even the royal aides obeyed. They knew in that instant that Daniel was not just any guard. He was something different, something exceptional. Daniel examined her quickly. There were no visible wounds. Her energy pulse, the light that ran beneath her skin, was unstable, flickering. His heart sank. Whatever this was, it was internal, something attacking her from within. "Hold her head," he ordered a nearby aide. Gently, he lifted its delicate frame. She was lighter than she looked, but the weight of her frailty pressed heavily on his mind. Her eyes opened again, silver light dim but still watching him. "Daniel, everyone panic," she whispered weakly. He shook his head. "Not me, I won't panic. I need you to trust me. Breathe slowly, just breathe." For a moment she tried. Her chest rose and fell in tiny waves. Daniel's mind raced. There were poisonings, heart malfunctions, energy surges in aliens. They all required immediate action. But the palace's medics were trained for rituals, not emergencies like this. And Daniel knew that waiting would be fatal. He glanced at the crowd, faces full of fear. Some tried to reach her, some simply watched. None of them moved with his focus, none of them acted with his precision. One thing was clear. If was to survive, it would not be the palace, the doctors, or the nobles who saved her. It would be him. And Daniel had already made his choice. He tightened his grip around her, feeling the warmth of her fragile body against his own. "I promise," he whispered almost to himself, "I will not let you fall again." Outside, the palace gates trembled in anticipation of chaos. Inside, the music of panic swelled louder than any symphony. But in the center of it all, one human remained steady, calm, resolute. And Princess, for the first time in her life, allowed herself to lean on him completely. The fall was not the end, it was only the beginning. Daniel held Princess close, her silver eyes barely focusing on him. The crowd was still panicking. their fear like a living wave pressing against the calm island he had become. He could hear the soft sobs of servants and the frantic shouts of courtiers. He scanned her face. Her lips were pale, her skin flickering with that eerie blue light. Something was draining her energy, but it wasn't poison, not in the usual sense. "Daniel," she whispered, her voice a fragile thread. It's inside me, I can feel it." He frowned. "Inside, what do you mean?" "I don't know, a shadow, a voice trying to take me," she said, shivering. Her fingers twitched weakly, trying to grip his hand. I can't fight it." Daniel's jaw tightened. He had faced death before, but this was different. This was unseen, unknown, alien, and it was targeting the princess. He stood slowly, cradling her in his arms. "Then we fight it together. I won't leave you, not for 1 second." The palace medics arrived, rushing through the crowd. They spoke in hurried, alien tones, hands glowing with healing energy. One of them, a tall being with violet skin, looked at Daniel nervously. "Captain," the healer said, "we cannot stabilize her. The energy, it's foreign. It is not of her body, nor any ailment we know." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "Then we need someone who understands it. Now, take her somewhere safe." The healer hesitated. "The chambers." "No," Daniel barked. "Too slow, too many eyes. I'll take her myself." Before anyone could stop him, he pushed through the crowd. Nobles tried to block him, but he moved with precision. Every human muscle, trained for speed and control, cut through panic. Guards hesitated. They were loyal, but Daniel's authority was undeniable. In the quiet of the palace corridors, he finally allowed himself a brief moment to assess. His body was trembling. Her energy flickered like a dying flame. He placed his hand lightly on her chest, feeling the pulse beneath her skin. "Stay with me," he said softly. "I can't fight this alone, but I'll try." A sudden cold wind brushed past them. The lights flickered. The walls themselves seemed to shiver, gasped. "It's here," she whispered. "It knows you're trying to help." Daniel's mind raced. Shadows in the palace corridors, whispers that weren't words, chills that seemed to crawl inside his bones. Whatever this was, it was alive, and it was feeding on her fear. He set her gently on a long bench along the corridor. "Listen to me. I need you to focus on me. Nothing else. Look at me." Her silver eyes locked onto his. Her breaths were short, panicked. But he didn't flinch. He didn't let the darkness touch him. "Your power," he said, more to himself than to her. "Your light, it's being stolen. But I won't let it. Not by shadows, not by fear, not by anything." Her hand found his, weak but determined. "I trust you," she whispered. And in that moment, Daniel felt it, the shadow. It was real, darker than night, heavier than air. It whispered around them, laughing with a sound that rattled the bones. But he did not step back. He did not falter. "I'm not afraid of you," he said aloud, his voice echoing down the corridors. "You will not take her. You will not win." The shadow paused as if surprised. It had never met a human like him before. Calm, resolute, utterly fearless. Shivered, but she clung to him. "Daniel, I think it's weakening." "Yes," he said, "because we are together, and together it can't touch you." The palace was silent, except for the distant echoes of chaos and panic. But in the corridor, a human and an alien princess faced the darkness, and for the first time, hope flickered. Daniel knew the fight had just begun. Whatever this shadow was, it had chosen the princess, and he would not allow it to claim her. He tightened his grip around her hand. "We will survive this, and I will show you humans are worth trusting, I promise." Outside the walls, the galaxy seemed indifferent. But inside the palace, the human guard stood firm against fear itself. And the princess, fragile yet unbroken, found the courage to lean on him completely. The shadows stirred, but Daniel did not flinch. Daniel's heart raced, but his face stayed calm. He knew that panic would do more harm than good. He had to move quickly but carefully. "This way," he whispered to, guiding her through a narrow corridor. The shadows seemed to follow them, twisting along the walls like dark fingers. The palace, once a symbol of elegance and order, now felt like a cage. "Where are we going?" asked, her voice trembling. "To a safe place," he said, his grip steady. "Somewhere they cannot reach us." She leaned weakly on him, her glowing form flickering in response to the shadow's presence. Every step was a struggle for her, but she refused to fall again. Daniel admired her strength. She was royalty, yes, but also human enough to fear. And in that fear, she trusted him. They reached the heavy bronze doors of the palace's forbidden wing. It was a place no one dared enter without the queen's permission. Rumors said it held dangerous relics and secrets from ancient wars. But Daniel knew it better. It was isolated, hidden from the eyes of courtiers and spies alike. He pushed the doors open with a grunt. The air was cold, carrying the scent of old books and stone. Shadows twisted along the ceiling, but here they slowed, hesitant. Daniel sat down gently. "Stay here," he said. "I need to see what we're dealing with." She shook her head weakly. I can't, not alone, please don't leave me." He smiled, though it was grim. "You won't be alone, I am with you, always." Together they stepped further into the wing. The darkness thickened, swirling around them like a living thing. Then Daniel saw it, a black mist, writhing in the center of the hall, pulsating as if it had a heartbeat. Its whispers filled the air, hissing secrets in a language no human or alien should understand. Gasped, that is it, that's inside me." Daniel clenched his fists. "It won't touch you again, not while I'm here." The shadow hissed, moving toward them. Daniel stepped forward, planting himself between and the darkness. He had no weapon, only his human resolve, and yet that was enough. "Go back," he shouted. "You cannot have her." The shadow lunged. A chill cut through the air, searing Daniel's skin. He staggered, but he did not fall. He had learned long ago that humans could endure pain in ways others could not. Every fiber of his being screamed to protect her, and that made him stronger than the dark. Trembling but determined, reached out. Her fingers glowed faintly. The shadow recoiled slightly, hissing at the light. "Daniel," she whispered, I can help." He looked at her, eyes burning with trust. "Do it," he said. "Focus your light through me. Together we can push it back." She nodded. She had never done this before, never fought a shadow like this, but she trusted him completely. Her hand met his, and a pulse of silver-blue light shot through them both. The shadow shrieked, recoiling violently. Daniel felt it claw at him, trying to separate them, to reach. But he held firm. Every ounce of his strength went into keeping her safe, channeling her energy, refusing to let the darkness win. "You are not alone," he shouted. "I am here, you cannot take her." For a moment, silence fell. The shadow trembled, then shrieked one last time before collapsing into a wisp of smoke, dissolving into nothing. The air grew still. The cold faded. The corridor lights flickered back to normal. Sank to her knees, exhausted but alive. Daniel knelt beside her, holding her close. Her silver eyes met his, filled with gratitude and awe. "You saved me," she whispered. He shook his head. "No, we saved each other. That's what humans do." She smiled faintly, a shimmer of strength returning. "You're extraordinary, Daniel. Don't speak yet," he said softly. "Rest. We need your strength for what comes next. This was only the beginning." And he was right. Even as the shadow faded, he knew it had left something behind, a warning, a lingering sense of danger. The palace was far from safe, and the forces that sought to harm her were patient. But for now, in this quiet, forbidden wing, a human guard and an alien princess had survived the impossible together. Daniel looked down at her, determination hardening in his chest. "No matter what comes next, I will not let anyone take you from me. Not them, not this place, not even the darkness itself." Leaned against him, trusting, trembling, and yet ready. And in that trust, a silent promise was made, one that would bind them through trials no one in the galaxy could imagine. The palace was still alive with panic beyond the doors. But inside, a human and a princess had discovered a new truth. Courage is stronger than fear, and loyalty can withstand the impossible. The corridors of the palace were no longer safe. Word of the princess's collapse had spread like wildfire. Servants ran screaming, nobles argued, and guards tried to restore order, but chaos ruled. Daniel carried carefully through hidden passages, the silver glow of her energy still flickering faintly. He knew the shadow they had banished was only one part of the danger. The palace itself was filled with enemies, spies, traitors, and those who would use her weakness to seize power. "Daniel, where are we going now?" asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "To the inner tower," he replied. "It's fortified, few dare enter, you'll be safe there at least for a while." She nodded, trusting him completely. Every step she took leaned on his strength, and every glance she gave him carried silent gratitude. But Daniel could feel the weight of responsibility pressing heavier than ever. As they turned a corner, a group of armored figures appeared, blocking their path. The insignia on there was foreign, alien mercenaries, trained killers. Their eyes glowed with malice. "Hand over the princess," one demanded. "She belongs to the High Council now." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Over my dead body." The leader laughed. "I was hoping you'd say that. Humans are reckless but amusing." Daniel dropped to a crouch, shielding behind him. She clutched his arm, trembling, but he could see a flicker of determination in her silver eyes. Without warning, the mercenaries attacked. Blades of energy sliced through the air. Daniel moved with precise, practiced speed. He caught one strike with his forearm, spun, and knocked another attacker to the floor. Every motion was calculated, protecting while fighting multiple opponents. Despite her weakness, found herself drawn to the battle. Her hands glowed faintly, silver light flaring as she instinctively sent energy pulses at those who came too close. One mercenary stumbled backward, shielding his eyes. Daniel seized the moment. "Keep your energy steady, don't let them overwhelm you." She nodded, breathing heavily, focusing on the pulse of her light. Together, human and princess moved as one. His strength, her energy, it was a perfect, desperate rhythm against their enemies. The fight seemed endless, but Daniel refused to falter. He thought of the fall, of the shadow, of the fear in her eyes. Every strike he made was for her, every movement meant to protect her. Finally, the last mercenary was thrown back against the wall, unconscious. Daniel straightened, breathing hard, swayed, leaning into him for support. "You were amazing," she whispered, eyes full of awe and gratitude. Daniel shook his head, though his lips curved in a tired smile. "You were just as amazing. You fought even when you were weak. That's why you survive. That's why you lead." Suddenly, alarms rang through the palace. Fire, smoke, panic. The chaos had grown beyond the corridors. They were under siege. "Daniel, we have to move," said, fear returning to her voice. He nodded. "Yes, the inner tower now." They ran through twisting passages, dodging falling debris and blazing curtains of flame. The palace, once a sanctuary of elegance and light, was now a battlefield. Every turn brought danger. Every shadow could hide another enemy. Yet Daniel did not waver. He moved with purpose, carrying when necessary, blocking debris with his own body, guiding her through the smoke and fire. Finally, they reached a spiral staircase leading to the inner tower. Daniel kicked open the heavy doors. The chamber inside was silent, fortified, and safe, for now. He sat down gently, watching her sink to a bench, exhausted. Her silver eyes met his, filled with trust, relief, and something deeper, an unspoken connection that had grown stronger with every trial. "You've kept me alive through everything," she said softly. Daniel looked at her, catching his breath. "I promised, and I always will." Outside the tower, the palace continued to burn and scream. But inside, in the quiet of the inner sanctum, a human guard and an alien princess had survived fire, betrayal, and darkness. And both knew the truth. The fight was far from over. The enemies would regroup, the shadows would return, and Daniel's loyalty would be tested like never before. But for the first time in the heart of chaos, felt safe. And Daniel, holding his ground, knew one thing above all: no force in the galaxy could break his resolve to protect her. The fire roared outside. Inside, two hearts beat in unity against a galaxy that had dared to challenge them. The inner tower was quiet now, but the silence was heavy with anticipation. Outside, the palace still burned. Smoke curled up the grand windows, mingling with the golden light of the setting sun. The world had changed in a single day, and the royal court would never be the same. Daniel sat beside Princess, examining her energy pulse. Her silver glow had stabilized slightly, but her strength was still fragile. She leaned on him, trembling but alive, her trust in him absolute. "We need to act," Daniel said softly. "This shadow, it wasn't alone, and it won't stop until it reaches you completely." Nodded weakly. "I know, but the council, they won't believe us. They'll think I'm weak. She trailed off, fear flashing in her eyes. Daniel clenched his jaw. He had dealt with nobles before, arrogant, calculating, and ruthless. But this was different. The council would see her weakness as an opportunity, and Daniel knew exactly how dangerous that could be. "Then we show them," he said, voice firm. "We show them that no one harms you while I'm here. That's how we survive this." Minutes later, they reached a chamber where the palace council had gathered. The doors were ornate, carved with symbols of authority and power. As Daniel pushed them open, every head turned. The council members were pale, panic-stricken, yet their eyes gleamed with suspicion. "Princess," one counselor began, his tone sharp. You collapsed in the grand hall. This is unacceptable. How can you rule in this state?" Daniel stepped forward, placing himself between and the council. "You dare question her strength?" he said, voice low but commanding. "She survived an attack that none of you could even see, and she did it with courage you could never imagine." The council murmured among themselves, shocked at a human speaking so boldly. But Daniel didn't flinch. He turned to, "You've been through hell, and you're still standing. That makes you stronger than anyone here." Swallowed, finding courage in his words. They don't understand," she said, voice trembling but firm. "There's a shadow. It tried to take me, and it will try again. I need allies, not doubt." One counselor sneered. "A human guard telling the princess how to rule? Preposterous." Daniel's gaze sharpened. "Not telling, protecting. Every moment I've served her, I've kept her alive while all of you debated titles and protocol. And if you think she is weak, then you don't know her, or me." The room went silent. The council members stared at him, unsure whether to be offended or impressed. Sensing their hesitation, stood taller. Her silver glow brightened slightly, fueled by her regained confidence. "I am not weak," she said, voice steady. "I am still your princess, and Daniel saved me when none of you could. That is why he speaks." A heavy pause followed. For a moment the air was thick with tension. Then Daniel made a choice. He would show them the true danger, demonstrate it so no one could dismiss it. "Let me bring it here," he said. "Let me show you what attacked her. Then you will understand why she must be protected at all costs." His eyes widened. "Daniel, are you sure it's dangerous?" He nodded. "I have no other choice. If they refuse to see the truth, more will die, including you." The council murmured, fear finally surfacing in their expressions. They had never seen shadows move like Daniel described. They had never faced a threat they couldn't control. Daniel reached for his hand. "Are you ready?" She looked at him, trust unwavering, and nodded. "Yes, with you." And together, human and princess stepped forward, ready to confront the council, and the hidden threat that had already begun to infect their world. Outside, the palace continued to burn. But inside, a new battle was about to begin, not just for survival, but for loyalty, courage, and the right to rule. Daniel's hand tightened around hers. "No matter what comes," he whispered, "we face it together always." And in that moment, the council understood one undeniable truth. The bond between a human and an alien princess could defy the galaxy itself. The council chamber was tense, suffocating, every noble's gaze fixed on Daniel and Princess. Smoke from the fires outside drifted through the high windows, casting flickering shadows across the marble floors. For the first time, fear and awe mixed in every eye. Daniel stepped forward, holding close, her frailty balanced against his strength. "The shadow is real," he said. "It attacks her mind, her body, her very energy. It's relentless and cunning. If you do not believe me, it will strike again, and next time it may succeed." A counselor scoffed. "And what proof do you have? Words are not enough to sway this court." Daniel didn't answer with words. He let take a deep breath and focus. Her silver glow pulsed brighter, her energy spreading through the chamber. Then, as if summoned by her concentration, the darkness returned. It poured into the room like liquid night, swirling, twisting, coiling around the pillars. The air grew cold. Every heart froze. Whispers of malice, unintelligible but piercing, filled their minds. The shadow had a form now, a writhing, monstrous figure, its edges flickering like black flames. Eyes glowed within the darkness, unblinking, merciless. The council gasped. Even the bravest knights took a step back. The palace, so grand and secure, felt fragile under the shadow's presence. Daniel planted himself in front of, "Stand behind me," he shouted. "It cannot touch her while I am here." The shadow hissed, a sound like 1,000 voices screaming. It lunged toward, reaching for her with tendrils of darkness. But Daniel moved first. He caught the tendrils with his bare hands, feeling cold and fire at the same time, and held them. Pain shot through him, but he didn't let go. His energy flared, blinding silver light radiating from her hands and chest. The shadow recoiled, writhing in agony. Daniel's grip held firm. He could feel her strength merging with his resolve, creating a barrier that the darkness could not penetrate. "You cannot have her," Daniel roared. His voice rang through the chamber, echoing against the walls. Trembling but determined, spoke too. "You will not win, not while we are together." The shadow shrieked, its form tearing apart under the force of human determination and alien light combined. The council watched in stunned silence, witnessing the impossible, a human and a princess holding back a force beyond comprehension. But even as the shadow faltered, a realization hit Daniel. This was only the first strike. The enemy had intelligence, cunning, and patience. They would not stop until power was completely theirs. He turned to the council, voice steady but sharp. "Do you see now? She is in danger, and if you do not act, if you hesitate, she may not survive the next attack." The council members exchanged fearful, uncertain glances. They had relied on protocol, on rules, on centuries of tradition. But none of it mattered here, not when a human guard could face darkness that even the council could not comprehend. Took a trembling step forward, holding her head high despite exhaustion. "I trust him," she said, her silver eyes locked on Daniel. "He has kept me alive, and I know he will not fail. You should trust him too. We have to fight together or we will all fall." A long silence followed. Then slowly one counselor nodded, then another. Fear gave way to understanding. Finally, the council realized that survival required more than protocol. It required trust in the human who had refused to falter. Daniel exhaled slowly, still holding the shadow's tendrils at bay. "Good," he said. "Then we prepare, we strengthen the palace, we train, and we fight together." The shadow hissed one last time, retreating into the darkness of the corridor, leaving only a faint whisper. "This is not over." Sank into Daniel's arms, exhausted but alive. "Thank you," she whispered, "for never giving up on me." He held her close, feeling the pulse of her energy intertwine with his own resolve. "You're not just my princess," he said softly. "You're my responsibility, my honor, and I will not fail you." Outside, the fires still raged, and the palace trembled under the chaos. But inside, human courage and alien strength had triumphed, for now. And in the hearts of both, a silent vow was made. No matter what darkness came next, no force in the galaxy could break the bond between them. The shadow had retreated, but the war was far from over. And Daniel knew with absolute certainty that the next battle would test everything, strength, trust, and love, beyond any limit they had faced before. The inner tower was quiet, but the air was thick with tension. Outside, the palace still burned. Flames licked the walls, smoke twisted into the sky, and the distant sound of chaos echoed like a war drum. Every eye in the council chamber was on Daniel and Princess. They knew what was coming. The shadow had returned, darker, stronger, smarter. It moved with purpose, its tendrils stretching through the corridors, hunting. It had learned from its first defeat. It would not allow mercy this time. Trembled, exhausted from the previous battles, but her silver glow flickered brighter as she drew on the last reserves of her strength. She looked at Daniel. I can't hold it alone anymore." He shook his head. "You don't have to, not alone, never alone, not while I'm here." She smiled faintly, a mix of fear and determination. "Then we end this, together." The shadow entered the chamber. It twisted in on itself, growing taller, wider, its many eyes reflecting malice and hunger. The council gasped, some dropping to their knees in terror. Others froze, unable to act. Daniel stepped forward, planting himself between and the shadow. He was exhausted, bruised, and bleeding from minor cuts, but he did not flinch. His eyes burned with human resolve, the kind of courage that legends were made of. "Back," he shouted. "You will not touch her, not now, not ever." The shadow lunged. Daniel caught its tendrils again, feeling the searing cold and pressure against his body. Pain shot through him, threatening to break him, but he gritted his teeth and held firm. Trembling but resolute, extended her hands. Silver energy flowed through the chamber, wrapping around Daniel like a shield. Her light met the shadow's darkness, and the room trembled. "Daniel, I trust you," she cried. "Together." He grasped her hands, their powers intertwining, forming a brilliant aura of light. The shadow shrieked, recoiling from the force of their combined will. It lashed out again, but Daniel moved with unmatched precision, blocking every strike, protecting her with every ounce of strength. The council watched in awe. They had doubted him. They had questioned her. But now nothing mattered except the human guard and the alien princess fighting side by side. The shadow roared, a sound that shook the walls and rattled the very stones of the palace. It tried to divide them, to weaken their connection, but Daniel refused to falter. Every thought, every muscle, every heartbeat was focused on one thing: keeping her alive. And then in a blinding flash, energy surged, amplified by Daniel's unwavering determination. Together they pushed the shadow back, forcing it into the chamber's center. The darkness twisted and shrieked, finally collapsing into a wisp, then vanishing completely. Silence fell. The chamber was scorched, walls cracked, and the air thick with the scent of smoke and energy. But the shadow was gone. Sank to her knees, exhausted beyond words. Daniel knelt beside her, holding her close. She rested her head against his chest, trembling but alive. You did it," she whispered, her voice raw with emotion. Daniel shook his head. "No, we did it together." For a long moment they simply held each other. The council, still recovering from fear, stared in stunned silence. They had witnessed something extraordinary, something beyond protocol, beyond tradition. A human had saved a princess, and together they had defeated a force that no alien army could face. Lifted her head, her silver eyes bright with tears. "I was afraid. I could not have survived this without you." Daniel smiled softly, brushing a lock of hair from her face. "And I was never afraid, because I had you to protect. And that is what humans do. We stand, even when the odds are impossible. We fight for those we care about." A new calm settled over the palace. Outside, the fire still roared, but inside, hope had been reborn. The council slowly approached, bowed, and nodded in respect. They understood now: strength was not measured by bloodline or title, but by courage, loyalty, and sacrifice. Stood slowly, leaning on Daniel for support. "The palace, the kingdom, will recover," she said. "But I will never forget this day, and I will never forget you." Daniel squeezed her hand. "Nor I, princess, not ever." And in that moment, a bond was sealed. A human and an alien princess had faced the impossible, darkness, and survived. Together, they had proven that courage transcends worlds, loyalty knows no bounds, and even in the face of fear, humanity could shine brighter than any shadow. The palace may have been, but hope had triumphed. And Daniel and, standing side by side, knew one truth above all: as long as they faced the galaxy together, nothing could ever break them. The shadow was gone, but the legend of the human guard and the alien princess had only just begun.